Well, good morning, and I almost got it right this morning. And for the next half hour, we're going to take a look at the newspapers and some local news before taking a little bit of a break, and then we'll be back with some more programs. We're staggering it a little bit because we appreciate that most of you don't want to sit down and watch half an hour, particularly on the computer. And also, it gives us a breathing space to make sure that we get things right, and we slowly are. This morning, I'm broadcasting from home simply because I have an eye appointment this afternoon at the hospital, and I have to dash off. And it's easier to dash from home than it is from the White Hart Hotel. But the staff are there, as usual, with their broad smiles, waiting to greet you. A great place to have morning coffee. That front bar, what used to be known as the Farmer's Bar, is just a lovely place to have a cup of coffee in front of a big roaring fire. So do avail yourself of that and go along and ask for Jane or Shannon or Steve or Sally or Wes, and they will look after you. They will make sure that you're comfortable. And I'm sorry that we aren't there this morning for you to listen to from the bar. We will be on a regular basis, but as I say, we're changing the format a little bit. And anyway, here I am, ready to serve you, to titillate you, to piss you off, and to do all the other things that I do. And I have to say that the news this morning is not good. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, which, in fairness, does get it right, does get it wrong from time to time, have forecast that out of all the leading industrial nations, we are the only one that are going to go into recession. Now, it wouldn't surprise me because of the strength of our leadership. They are much more interested in scandal and obfuscation and all sorts of other silly things rather than getting to grips with the problems that the country's faced. And if I see Jeremy Hunt grinning once more, as I'm ready to bite his ear off, and Sunak looking so terribly serious as if he understands what the hell's going on. He's a great talker. And actually, I pegged him way back 18 months ago or so when he delivered his first budget. And, okay, everybody had a bad time in lockdown. We had a bad time, as well as him and the government. And he delivered a budget that was all smoke and mirrors, beautifully presented. He's a great speaker. Let's not take that away from him because I admire great speakers. Actually, that's all about I've got to offer is I can be articulate when I put my mind to it. And he gave a terrific speech on both occasions, both his mini budget and the budget. And it all sounded so great, and even the pundits were fooled and said, "Oh, what a great budget! Oh, what a terrific presentation!" So, well, it was a terrific presentation. It was all smoke and mirrors. He was robbing Peter to pay Paul, as they so often do. It is not new monies at all. What they do is they switch it from one pocket to the other. And when I first went to Kosovo, I had a company secretary like that. He had a pair of those military trousers with 6 or 8 pockets in each leg. And he used to put receipts into the one pocket and then move into another, and money from there to what should be paid, what will be paid, what won't be paid, and so on. That was how he did the bookkeeping for a $6 million operation. God, it was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. He was a nice guy. Very nice guy. In fact, occasionally, from time to time, I share an email with him. But he was a lousy treasurer. And that really reflects the sort of people that we've got in Westminster. Most of them I'm sure that they're nice guys, although the charges of bullying and knocking people about in the corridors of power are legion. but that's not good enough. At times of stress and crisis, we don't want nice guys. We want people who will get on with the job. But Sir Humphrey has a lot to do with it too. You never see him, you never hear from him, you never know that he exists, except that he's pulling the strings in the background. Everybody is totally and utterly frightened of them, including the politicians. And Sir Humphrey, as depicted by, is it Nigel Hawthorne? Well, the Prime Minister from Nigel Hawthorne, wasn't it? And in what was it called, that program about the Yes Prime Minister? That's right, very simple. Yes Prime Minister or Yes Minister to start off with before they push him upstairs to become Prime Minister by accident, of course. Is so very true. And Margaret Thatcher was said to love the program because it reflected so much the problems that she had in handling these people. And if Margaret had trouble handling them, believe me, then they are very slippery characters indeed. All right. Okay, Keith. Why don't you actually go now to the papers? Yes, go to the papers, Keith. And let's see what on earth is going on. And there we go, number 10. But the newspaper headlines: The Guardian. The UK faces a sharp correction amid the trust's budget fallout, warns the IMF. And so the in essence, what we have here is the Guardian is among several of Tuesday's papers, leading with a report from the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, that Britain is expected to be the only G7 nation to see its economy shrink this year. The paper says, citing a sharp growth downgrade from the IMF. It expects the UK economy to contract by 0.6%, which contrasts with earlier estimates of a 0.3% growth. The IMF is the International Monetary Fund. It is once humiliated the British government in the 1970s, and essentially we were in such difficulty that we needed to get a loan from the International Monetary Fund. And the papers were prepared, and I think it was Dennis Healey, who was the Chancellor at the time, got out to Heathrow on the way to Washington and a meeting with the IMF, only to be called by his staff to say, you come back, the IMF aren't interested in seeing you because the state of play is such that they don't think they can help. And that was how bad we were in those days. Now, the IMF, pretty powerful organization indeed. And we need to yes, we need to make sure that we are not going to get into that sort of situation. But what's happening is more scandal, and let's blame Liz Truss, and let's blame Boris. Stop the blame game. I know that our form of democracy is a knockabout, that we yell and scream at one another. But there comes a time when the yelling and screaming has got to take second place to action. And that's what we're looking for, is action. Financial Times, the UK alone is heading for recession as other big economies grow, according to the International Monetary Fund, with a picture of Rishi Sunak gazing into space on the front page. The papers basically said the IMF report is the leading story in the FT, whose front page features a graphic showing the UK's projected growth in 2023 compared to other G7 countries. It reports the IMF's warning that Britain is the only country leading economy likely to slide into recession this year, and that the household spending will fall. Yes. Well, there we are. Not a very pretty picture. Not a very pretty picture at all. What are they doing in Parliament? Don't hold your breath. They're looking for another scandal. They're looking for something else to smear across. You know, Tony Blair introduced the spin doctors into Britain, and they've stuck. They were first used by Richard Nixon, the U.S. president who was forced to resign. And basically, spin doctors put a big spin on things so that things that look good at times when things are really quite bad, or that there is something else to divert the attention at times when things are quite bad, or that they try to slip out the bad news without admitting that it's there. That's bad. That's what a spin doctor is, and the spin doctor has held sway since 1997, when Tony came to power and introduced the spin doctor system. In fact, what he did was he took the news from Parliament and government out of the Central Office of Information, and which was a neutral body. It just put out factual stuff and started to use his own spin doctors to make sure that the right sort of news was coming in front of us. And that was one of his legacies, and we still suffer from them today. It's rather a pity, I'm afraid. Let's see. That's what we want. The Daily Mail. Why we have to cut taxes and go for growth. The Mail is suggesting a plan of action. Is it the right plan of action? I have no idea. But, you know, instead of debating this, should we cut taxes and take the chance and risk for growth, is Hunt and Sunak just keep on rabbiting on about we are not going to be moved on this and we're not going to be moved on that without any explanation as to what they are going to do to keep Britain out of recession. And they're not doing a very good job, according to the International Monetary Fund. Let's hope that the IMF have got it spectacularly wrong. Spectacularly wrong. It had to be spectacularly wrong. The Mail is urging the government to cut taxes and go for growth. In the light of the IMF report, the paper describes the economic forecast as grim and says it will put more pressure on ministers to cut taxes. Well, you say, what's cut taxes going to do? Well, the big thing is, of course, if you cut taxes, what you do is you attract investment. If people can get a good deal, if investors can get a good deal, they naturally gravitate, because they could care less. They have no sentiment. All they're interested in is the money. They make sure that their money gets a good deal, and so they pour it in. So cut taxes, you get a better return. All right, that's good for some of our money, and we pump it, and that helps the economy grow. The Daily Telegraph, the economy to shrink after the tax raid, says IMF. The Telegraph says that the Prime Minister and the Chancellor are resisting calls to cut taxes, with Jeremy Hunt stating last week that inflation needs to come down first. The economy to shrink after the tax raid, says IMF, as the paper headline, adding that the IMF's growth downgrade for the UK reflects higher taxes and higher interest rates. Yeah, that's going to attract, higher interest rates attract some money. Higher interest rates strengthen the pound, believe it or not, because currencies are based on, the value is based on the interest that they accrue. So that's the only good thing I can see coming out of that. and that is from an amateur economist, so don't put too much faith in that. The Times, parents in limbo over classroom walkouts. This was being discussed on the BBC, on ITV this morning. Can I say I can understand why the Daily Mirror has become such a poor newspaper? They had one of the economic editors on this morning. It wasn't that he was knowledgeable, and in fact, he got quite a good presentation. But he was absolutely adamant that they were on the right and that we were all in the wrong. And they were calling us bigots and other words that are quite derogatory. And, it's that sort of approach on telly, it doesn't do you any favors. And if that's what the Mirror has to offer, and that's the driving force. It also had a sort of a rather milder little man from the Mail, who every time he opened his mouth, the Mirror man kept putting him down. And the two people that actually who are the moderators, I don't know. I suppose everybody knows who they are. I don't. I don't watch that program very often. But they didn't try to intervene. They didn't have much of a stance in terms of being chairman of the whole thing. But anyway, what they were saying, and quite rightly so, is that the unions will not say when they're going to strike in the classroom. Now, nobody is denying their right to strike. That what they are doing is they're playing fast and loose, and they're playing politics, and it's ridiculous. Is if you're going to strike, let people know. People have to plan. You're not thinking about anybody but yourselves, in which case you've lost my sympathy straight away, because I am very much on the cause of duty at the moment. And I don't care how badly you think you've been treated, you have a duty to the country. Now, if you want to go on strike, go on strike. But don't play fast and loose with children and with families. That is not any sense of duty whatsoever. That is just purely selfish and spiteful. And if the teachers' union is spiteful, then I have no sympathy for teachers. And I would urge them, leave the bloody union. Get out of it. That sort of union has no place in a modern society, and certainly no place in the British society. Is when are we going to get some sense of duty back in people? We are just so self. It's dreadful. So get a sense of duty, and that is not a sense of duty. Is playing fast and loose when you're going to be in the classroom when you're not. The Daily Express, 1 in 4 patients unable to see their GP. Surprise, surprise. The NHS takes over in the Express again, which tends to be government supporting. So it's taken its finger off the government this morning. It's giving them a little bit of a break, and not being too nasty. But there we are. That's duty. Mirror. Neil Kinnock. Again, I warn you not to be ordinary, not to be young, not to fall ill, not to get old. This was a Neil Kinnock speech from 40 years ago. And the Mirror says it's got an exclusive interview with Neil Kinnock, who, incidentally, he and his wife, Glynis, I think her name is, got onto the gravy train very, very quickly and have made a fortune from their days. So I warn you not to be ordinary, not to be young, not to fall ill, not to get old. Well, he's got every reason not to, because the cash register in his office is going ting, 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 ting. Ting, ding, 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 ding. All right. The Daily Star. Could a plague from Mars wipe out all humanity? Well, they've asked that for 2 days in a row. They're obviously very worried about what's happening in space. I don't know whether they know something that the rest of us don't. Anyway, they really get down to earth, or should I say, they get to the bottom of the matter when it comes to a recession, is because we have been cutting back on bog roll during the cost of living crisis. We have really hit the skids, it says, when normally the one thing that disappears off the shelves very, very quickly is toilet roll. And we haven't seen any of it disappearing, though it is the shelves are fully stocked. So what it's saying is the cost of living crisis makes the front page of the Daily Star, which leads with the news that Britons are cutting back on toilet roll to save money. Alongside the headline, "We've really hit the skids," the paper illustrates the issue with the image of log bog roll and the promise of 7 sheets of free Daily Star being rolled inside. Oh, good for the Star. Good for the Star. The Sun. £88 million Chelsea Stars N-word shame. Oh, God, there is a Chelsea Star swore. Isn't that dreadful? I could care less. At this time of trouble, I don't wish to know what Chelsea Stars are doing. They're good footballers. It's an interesting football team. I have some knowledge, and actually I have one or two friends amongst Russian oligarchs, one at least of which knows Roman Abramovich quite well. So I've always sort of had a funny soft spot for Chelsea, even though Aston Villa is my team. And I have to say that we don't really care whether somebody swore on air and is a Chelsea football player. Swore in N-word shame is the headline from The Sun, which leads with an apology from a Chelsea football player over a video posted on social media last year. A representative for Mikhailo Mudryk told the paper he was deeply sorry for any offense caused by the video, which was posted on TikTok. They said the player's use of the N-word was solely to recite lyrics of a song, adding that the clip has been since removed. Oh, dear. Let's see if we can just take a look at. Let's see. We should be able to take a look at some. Right. Okay. Today's news, local news headlines in Sussex, that schools across Sussex confirm closure plans ahead of the teachers' strike. Well, at least the school bosses have taken heed of the fact that you can't play fast and loose with the children and families. Multiple West Sussex schools will be closed later this week as the National Educational Union, the National Education Union teachers' strike begins across the UK. The strike day, which will take place on Wednesday, February the 1st, and other dates to follow later in the year, will disrupt teaching across West Sussex, as teachers who are members of the union plan to take part in the strikes. While not every school in the area is to be impacted, West Sussex County Council has already been alerted to a number of planned closures, with some schools being completely closed, whilst others are subject to partial closure. Parents of children who attend certain closed schools have been advised to seek child care or speak to employers. Well, a woman 31 died after 5 999 calls and being left in a corridor for 12 hours. Well, the poor old NHS, I say the poor old NHS, it struggles from crisis to crisis, doesn't it? Let's see. A woman died in hospital after being treated in a corridor for 12 hours. Her family said Tamara Davis, aged 31, was admitted to hospital with a severe chest infection after coughing up blood at home. She was initially treated in a cubicle at A&E before her bed was wheeled into the corridor while she was in the toilet with diarrhea. Her devastated sister, Maya Davis, 24, said Tamara was left in the corridor for 12 hours before being admitted to intensive care, where she was put on a ventilator. Well, very sad case. Sussex Repair Cafe that fixes broken items for free and puts smiles on faces. I think we'll leave that. A27 to be closed for 14 nights, with the A23 also due for roadworks. Let's see. The A27 is set to close for 14 nights starting on Monday, January the 30th. Well, that was yesterday. As a busy week of roadworks and closures are in place for Sussex. The busy A Road, which turns throughout East and West Sussex, will see a closure in place almost every night for 2 weeks between the Drusillas roundabout and Polegate as a result of footpath repairs and resurfacing, as well as the closure, which is set to end 2 weeks today on February the 13th. Other major Sussex roads will also be closed for roadworks, including the A23. The A27 will also be closed in some other areas during the week, with work being done near Arundel and Chichester. So that's basically the news and local news in our particular area. And the weather is it's getting quite heady. It's going to reach 12 today. Absolutely. I mean, that's warm. And right now it is 7 degrees. It's cloudy. Well, it is, yes and no. As I'm looking out at the moment, getting what we yes, a little streak here and a little streak there, but basically it's blue and it's sunny and it's pleasant. And spring is coming early. And now some people in the weather office are beginning to poo-poo the idea that we're going to get this cold blast from the north. So enjoy. Let's just take a quick look at where we are from above. Well, there we are. That's Lewis from above. We are going to leave you now but we will be back in a little while. It's about 9:15, I think, to carry on with some programs. But this has been a morning news review, and I hope that you enjoyed being with us. For the moment, well, let's we'll oh gosh, yes. Here we go. Toodle pip for a little while. We'll see you. Come and rejoin us, or stay with us, or whatever.